We come now to the part one of Descartes' Discourse on Method, wherein he goes over what he learned in school, and more importantly, what he did not learn. When I say school, I mean the best universities in existence at the time, at least on the continent of Europe. He says, I did not, however, cease to hold in high regard the academic exercises with which we occupy ourselves in the schools. Stuff studied in school is to be held in high regard. I knew that the languages learned there are necessary for the understanding of classical texts. Languages are good to study. That the charm of fables awakens the mind. It's important to study fables. By the way, this may connect to where he says a little bit earlier that he has put forward this very book as a story, or if you prefer, as a fable. It's something to awaken the mind. That the memorable deeds recounted in histories uplift it, and if read with discretion, aid in forming one's judgment. Studying history is good too. That the reading of all good books is like a conversation with the most honorable people of past ages who were their authors. Indeed, even like a set conversation in which they reveal to us only the best of their thoughts. Good reasons to read good books. That oratory has incomparable power and beauty, that poetry has quite ravishing delicacy and sweetness, that mathematics has some very subtle stratagems that can serve as much to satisfy the curious as to facilitate all the arts and to lessen men's labor, that writings dealing with morals contain many lessons and many exhortations to virtue that are very useful. All these things are worth studying. That theology teaches one how to reach heaven. That philosophy provides the means of speaking plausibly about all things and of making oneself admired by the less learned. That jurisprudence, medicine, and the other sciences bring honor and riches to those who cultivate them. And finally, that it is good to have examined all these disciplines, even the most superstition-ridden, and the most false of them, in order to know their true worth and to guard against being deceived by them. So wait a minute. He just lists all these wonderful things you can study in your education. And then he says, it's great to study them, even the ones that are the most superstition-ridden and the most false. What's up with that? Other than the study of fables, what's ridden with superstition and false? Maybe that's all he means. Or maybe he's saying lots of the things we study, we learn in school, we think we learn in school, are learned no more than the fables are learned, which is to say, if you're studying Greek mythology, you're learning facts about what people say about Greek mythology. But those are the only facts you're learning. The statements of Greek mythology are not facts. And maybe the same is true of many other things we study. But I believed I'd already given enough time to languages and also to the reading of classical texts, both to their histories and to their fables. For conversing with those of other ages is about the same thing as traveling. It is good to know something of the customs of various peoples, so as to judge our own more soundly, and so as not to think that everything that is contrary to our ways is ridiculous and against reason, as those who have seen nothing have a habit of doing. But when one takes too much time traveling, one eventually becomes a stranger in one's own country. Don't read old books too much. Etc., etc. I held oratory in high regard and was enamored of poetry, but I thought both were gifts of the mind rather than fruits of study. So poetry and oratory, good speaking skills, these are not things you can learn so much as be gifted in. I delighted most of all in mathematics because of the certainty and the evidence of its reasonings, but I did not yet notice its true use, and thinking that it was of service merely to the mechanical arts, I was astonished by the fact that no one had built anything more noble upon its foundations, given that they were so solid and firm. Now, this is a really key passage. On the other hand, I compared the writings of the ancient pagans that deal with morals to very proud and very magnificent palaces that were built on nothing but sand and mud, etc. Let's stop there, actually. I think I'll do the next part in the next video. But let me comment on this part as we wrap up the first few paragraphs, praising and critiquing what he learned in school. Note that he delighted most of all in mathematics, but thought it just had certain practical uses for the mechanical arts. So math is useful for figuring out how to, build a car and how to build a good building. Math is useful for engineers. Okay, but he did not notice its true use. So what is the true use of mathematics? Well, maybe we'll get to that later. If it doesn't come up in this series in future weeks, then, ask me in comments and see what I say. What is the true use of mathematics? All right, besides its use for the mechanical arts. Now, he compares and contrasts mathematics with ethics, with the writings of the ancient pagans that deal with morals. Those are like very proud and very magnificent palaces that were built on nothing but sand and mud, whereas mathematics is a very solid foundation with almost nothing built on it except some usefulness for architecture and engineering. What we need is something as useful and edifying as the writings of ancient moral philosophers, built on a foundation as solid as mathematics. Now, where are we going to get that? Where else? I'm holding it in my hand here. We're going to get it in this book. That's what he's setting himself up. That's what he's setting himself up to give. He's setting us up to receive from him, before the book is over, a new philosophy that is as useful as anything written in ancient moral philosophy, but this time built on a solid foundation. A philosophy that's built on foundations as solid as mathematics in its certainty, but is much more useful than anything we've gotten from mathematics so far. That's what he's going for. And let's see, one more point I should probably state explicitly, if I have not yet stated it, is that the gist of this passage, the gist of these paragraphs and the next, at least the next 3 paragraphs to come in the subsequent video, the gist of them is basically this. Descartes says he studied great stuff in school. He's glad he studied it. I can praise what I studied in school for various reasons, but none of it gave me knowledge. He's holding himself up, as I probably already said, but this bears saying multiple times. He's holding himself up as the new Socrates, someone who is radically aware of his own ignorance. But unlike Socrates, his goal is to give us a method that can give us knowledge, not just true belief that we happen to get by luck, by the grace of God, but knowledge. This is the discourse on the method for conducting our reason well, seeking the truth in the sciences. This is the method that will move past Socrates, that will give us the knowledge we've been lacking up till now. Thanks for watching.